if then people slowly but surely start to join in bit by bit. But for everyone that has jumped on this evening, I hope no one in Australia is watching this apart from Joe here on the call. But thank you for hopping on. I'm sure you've all had busy days, so I'm sure hopefully we can get a nice, good info session in for you guys and you go away with a lot to think about. So a few introductions. So my name's Kiara and I work in the global team here in London with ANZ UK Education. I've been in this role now for about a year and have been helping educators move from particularly Ireland and the UK over to Australia to work in early childhood as well as secondary and primary education as well. I'm originally from Melbourne, which is where Joe is joining us from, undeniably the best city in Australia in my opinion. I am secondary teacher trained from Australia and taught for quite a few years back there in both mainstream and special needs settings, with a few visits down to the early childhood rooms every now and then. So have a lot of experience in Australian classroom settings and always love sharing those experiences.
I'm Jo. I'm not Australian born and bred. I'm from Scotland, but I've been here in Melbourne for about 7 years now. And I work as an early childhood consultant. I work quite closely with the global teams, with Kiara, Annika and Corey, to help educators from the UK and Ireland who are starting their journey in Australia. So helping them, supporting them with that process of moving to Australia. I've got experience from home working in primary, secondary, early childhood settings, and a lot of sports coaching. And yeah, it's just obviously really rewarding to help educators who are making that transition down under. Yeah, and had the pleasure of having Kiara over to visit recently.
Yeah, exactly. Got to visit some of the centres. It was fabulous. I was very impressed, to say the least. So hopefully that'll be you guys when you decide to make the move over. You can go into these beautiful centres over in Australia. Let Joe go with this one.
Yeah. So who are ANZ UK? We were sort of started from the concept from our CEO Dan, who is an Australian teacher who went and spent some time living and working in London, and realised how valuable his teaching experience was from Australia and how much, travelling educators were really revered in that community. So once he came back to Melbourne, he realised it obviously worked both ways as well, and teachers from the UK and Ireland were really sought after in Australia. We have a lot of local teachers and educators and offices, but essentially we're founded off of the idea of those travelling educators and supporting them with their journey. We work with a variety of settings within Australia. So we have, in Melbourne, we've got schools, SEN schools, OSH, kindergartens, long daycares, and within them there's obviously Catholic schools, council-run childhood services. So a huge variety of the types of centres we partner with. We offer flexibility for our educators. So whether you want to take a month off, go travelling, or have a long weekend away, you just update your availability and then we can offer you work when you are free. So yeah, you're not sort of locked into anything. Like Kiara and myself, a lot of the consultants who work in the offices do come from the industry, so we are able to offer you a lot of support and expertise working within the industry. I guess we can support you well through your journey of working with us. Fair pay and regular income, we pay weekly. We pay against and above the Teachers and Children's Services Award within our early childhood teams in Australia. And if you are looking for something a little bit more permanent, then we can support you with permanent work and contracts as well through your time. obviously it's really nice. I'm sure some of you may have been to the events or may have events coming up, but it's really lovely that you're able to sort of build relationships, you know, before you leave home and once you get here, with other educators who are in the same boat, and you can share experiences with them. Yeah, Kiara, myself, will support you with your transition over. And yeah, like I've said, a lot of social events and fun things to look forward to.
Yeah, very social company. Oh God, I'm skipping ahead a lot of time. Very social company, ANZ UK. We value it a lot and hold it at very high standard, and know it's important to our educators that are making the move as well. So as well as why, as teaching Australian, why not just like stay at home as well? Obviously, working abroad is not just amazing for career development, but also personal growth. A lot of people may stay at home, but moving abroad gives you a chance to step out of your comfort zone. It gives you an opportunity to be a part of cultures and communities that you might not have been a part of otherwise if you'd stayed at home. And just the experience of living in the country generally, it opens you up to so many other opportunities that you might not have seen otherwise, whether that be friendships, job opportunities, and areas of just growing, you know, in yourself as well, and showing you that you can do those things that you might have been scared of to start with. And it sets you up really well for the rest of your life, knowing that there's really nothing too scary that you can't handle. As well as that, obviously, the career development is phenomenal within moving abroad. You know, education settings and schools and centres across the world really value their educators that have a real, you know, developed experience, and not just like the same settings that maybe every other educator may have, but ones that can bring something different, some perspectives, some experiences that they may not have thought of or seen where you're from originally as well. So it is really valued and it is sought after, and it is something you can bring home and be really proud of too. As well as those life experiences that you're going to make. There's something about moving abroad that, and the memories that you'll have. I've just been away a year now, and I was just reflecting on that today. And it's just amazing the things you can achieve in a short amount of time when you're doing something different, whether that's making new friends, traveling places that you haven't seen before. Being in Australia means you're close to Asia, which can be far from the other side of the world. So it gives you opportunity to go and get out there as well, and just meet like-minded people as well that sometimes you can struggle to find in your hometowns, cities, jobs, things like that. So honestly, it is a wealth of just experiences and value that you're not going to find otherwise. And obviously Australia, it's very big. Everyone, I'm sure everyone here has maybe watched an episode of Bondi Rescue here and there. We've all imagined going to Australia, seeing all the wildlife. Australia is massive though, and it's not all like that. We have cities across the country, but it's just a huge country. And we'd love to put this photo in because I get a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to go to Australia. I'm going to travel for like a month or two. And I'm like, you're not traveling the whole country in 1 or 2 months. Let me tell you that much for free. Stick to maybe 1 or 2 states and keep it at that. But that's the beauty of going and living in another country. It gives you the time to actually explore it to the best of your ability. It gives you the time and space and knowledge that meeting other people that have done it, they can also guide you in the right direction there as well. There's also some great incentives for early childhood workers that are going to Australia that we operate, and I'll talk a bit about that later in the presentation. And it really encourages you to move around the country and see it for what it is. So yeah, just take that little snapshot in there. That's all of Europe there. So could probably fit a bit of Africa in there too.
I realised when I first came over, I landed in Sydney and my sister lives in Perth, and I told her I was going to go and drive to see her at the weekend, not realising that the drive was 35 hours.
I was going to say, and you got to drive through like the Nullarbor, which is like the scariest stretch of desert in Australia.
Yeah. Even now it blows my mind, the size of it, but lots to see, lots to do. So the work options that we can support you with, so what I do is support educators with day-to-day work, so whether that's educators in the centre calling in sick or taking holidays, you can be there to support the centre in that short-term capacity. We work with a huge amount of centres across Australia. So it's a really good option, I guess, when you first get here to see the different type of settings, try out different things and see what really aligns for you. Obviously, it can be good in the long term as well. We have a lot of educators that stay on with us and just really enjoy the flexibility of the day-to-day work. So yeah, update your availability, take time off when you want to, and we do often get opportunities for our educators to move into longer term positions, whether that's block bookings or short term contract roles, through the day-to-day flexible work. We can support you with long and short term contracts as well. This is where you sort of transition from working directly with ANZ UK to working with the school directly. They organise your salary, your position description, and what that role looks like for you, which can provide you with huge networking opportunities and career development as well. Obviously, these can vary in length, and what that might look like for you, and permanent employment as well. So obviously you're taking a permanent role with the school or with the early childhood centre. We will still regularly check in on you as well. You'll still be part of the ANZ UK community. And yeah, everything will be worked with directly through the school as well. So it can be quite nice, if you have come from, I guess, that CRT work into a permanent contract, you sort of have an opportunity to try before you buy. There can be a lot of times, you go to an interview and you get a certain perception of a school or of a centre, and can realise when you work there it is quite different to what your perception was. But if you have 3-4 weeks that you've worked there casually, you've really gotten to know the philosophy of the centre, the team that you'll be working with, the children as well. So it can be a really nice, smooth transition for you into those permanent contract roles. Yeah, so really good opportunities for you when you come over.
And just for context as well, with permanent opportunities, that tends to be based on your visa and passport eligibility as well, which is something that we can always discuss with you too, just so you can understand that as well. And location options. So this is a really exciting thing, personally, anyway, for me, for early childhood educators going to Australia for work, is firstly, we have 9 offices across Australia. We pretty much have an office in all work opportunities really in every state apart from Northern Territory, and Tasmania as well. So it's pretty much, which is the small little place down there is Tassie, just in case you don't know. With our biggest office, of course, being in Melbourne, that's where ANZ UK was born and bred. So there's we have a lot of offices there to support you with. However, because of having an early childhood degree in Australia, that basically means that you have, once you get your qualification assessed, you buy a CEQA, which is the early childhood body nationally, which I'll talk about a bit more as well in a second. But once you have that done, you can really work anywhere in Australia. It's a national assessment, meaning gives you the rights everywhere. And so what we've introduced is a passport program. And what that means is we'll provide incentive and flight reimbursements for people that actually are wanting to go to Australia, maybe more on that casual travel basis, and they want to get out there and they want to see as much of Australia as they can, while actually having good, consistent and reliable jobs through us. And we'll actually support you in moving and seeing every state that you can and working within them. Given you work a certain amount of days, you'll be given flight reimbursements for it. You're given accommodation advice and guidance for every city, where's best to live, best places to go out and see, activities, restaurants, things like that, and a lot of competitions that go on around that as well. And basically just a really fun way to be able to see Australia in whatever way capacity you're looking to do it, whether it's looking to take a year off or make it a permanent thing and want to travel a bit at the start. We really encourage getting out and seeing all the different states and cities within Australia. And you can do casual work during this, or you can do like the short contracts or block work as well, which is those longer term consistent blocks of work in those places. We also as well really encourage, or would love as well, if you had the experience of going into regional settings within Australia. As you saw, Australia is huge, and like 90% of the population of Australia live on the coastline, but that doesn't mean that no one lives a bit further in as well. And there are regional settings, and there's some really great opportunities to get amongst, I guess you could say, the true Aussie culture, where you might see a few more creepy crawlies, things like that, but you'll get some really good stories and Aussie experiences that we just really encourage people to go out. And it's never permanent. It can always just be a, as Joe said, a test before you buy type thing, or try before you buy. But yeah, Australia is huge, and if you can, why not go out and see as much of it as you can? And this is the getting qualified to work in Australia as an early childhood educator. So ACEQA, which isn't an acronym for the longer version of what that means, but basically it's the Early Childhood Assessment Authority in Australia, and it is a national assessment. So as said before, that means that you are assessed across the whole country, and you can work within that. And basically, there's a list of qualifications that go onto this pre-approved list, and your qualification most likely won't be on this, so you'll need to get it assessed. And what it does, it assesses your qualification as either a OSH educator, a Cert 3 educator, a diploma level educator, or an early childhood teacher. All of these have different pay rates, and obviously the purpose of ACEQA for international educators is to assess it against Australian qualifications, because sometimes just because you may have done a certain degree at home, it doesn't always equate to the same thing in Australia, purely just because of credits or maybe placements, things like that. Most of the time it is pretty, word for word, and you get back what you are qualified as, but it is just their way of making sure that everything's up to scratch and up to the same standard as what educators here in Australia are taught at. It can take up to 10 weeks, and it can be done at any stage of your planning to go to Australia. Which is a bit different for maybe teachers, where you have to wait to get your qualification for teaching when you get there, or only a few months before. ACEQA, you can, if you think you're going to go in the next couple of years and you just want to find out whether you can do it now, and it'd be valid up until you decided to go, which is fantastic. So just letting someone in. And yeah, once you're assessed and approved, that's it. You can go hell for leather. You can go out into Oz and you can start working at the level that you've been assessed as. Just a few little notes as well. There will be some educators on this call and that are wanting to go to Australia, and they're an early childhood teacher. Specifically, if you are an early childhood teacher, you will need to get, as well as your ACEQA, a teaching registration on top of that. And each state in Australia has their own teaching registration process, which is a bit annoying. But if you're looking to just go to the one place, it's fine, because you can just get it done and settled once you. Some states you get it done before you go, some you get done once you arrive. However, if you have to wait for it to come through, given you have your ACEQA done, you can always work at the level underneath that, which is diploma level, which is only a couple dollars difference in pay per hour anyway. And for those diploma level educators too, there's you can still be room leads, things like that. So it is a really good program, and it's pretty easy, to be honest, how to do it. But that's what I support with. I support with getting you guys all qualified, make sure that you're doing the right thing based on what your preferences are and what you're going over to Australia to do. And those who aren't teachers, you'll just need to get a working with children's check in every state that you go to, which is like a DBS or a vetting for those, but for Australia, and it's just a child safety check, and those normally come back within a week or two, depending on the state that you're in. So not too much of a hassle, but just something that needs to be done to keep those kids safe. But yeah, if you do have more questions or you're a bit confused about it, if you do make the choice to go, we'll have a discussion about this more in our one-to-one calls that we have and that we offer.
So within early childhood, there are a few different settings that you're able to work in. So long day cares are typically your 0 to 5-year-old children, who will generally be grouped based on their age. So you'll have, as 0 to 12 months children in the babies room, 12 month to maybe 18 month, 18 to 24, 2 to 3-year-old room, and then your 3-year-old kinder and 4-year-old kinder rooms as well. Educators, assessed as Cert 3 diploma or early childhood teacher can all work within long daycare settings. I guess they are what they say, a long daycare. So they are generally open from about 6:30, 7 a.m. To 6 p.m. So really good option for, working parents that can drop their children off early and know that they're cared for, fed, nurtured while they're at work. Generally the shifts that we get, you might be in a toddler room for the full day, supporting the room leader and the lead educators in there. Or you may be doing a breaks cover where you relieve the permanent educators while they take their lunch throughout the day. So, we generally have information on what room you'll be working in and who you'll be supporting in the centre. Your early childhood teachers will be leading the 3-year-old kinder or the 4-year-old kinder rooms, but you can work down, you can work in the baby's room, but you would be working as a diploma level educator. The sessional kindergartens, I would call a nursery at home, which confusingly Australia call nursery the baby's room. But this is your 3 to 5-year-old children. It's generally preschools, which are part of a school, or you can have standalone kindergartens as well. The children will be grouped in sessions, so they'll have a morning session, which is sort of that 8 to 12 p.m. Or you will have an afternoon session, which is generally 12:30 to 4. So we do find that these shifts are shorter than long daycare shifts. You may just be helping out with the morning session. You can do a lunch cover shift, which is sort of 10 till 2, or you can do a full day shift supporting both sessions as well. We are finding more and more now that some of the sessional kindergartens are offering before care and after care programs for the families. So while they would traditionally finish at 3:30, 4 o'clock, just to support those working parents, they are now staying up until 6 o'clock. So we are finding these shifts generally are later as well. So a little bit of changes. There is different ratio requirements for educator to children on each state and territory in Australia. You can read through the ones here. Wherever, if you're moving around Australia, we'll be able to give you that information and what that looks like, or whether you're staying in one state. But I guess the requirements are different per state. Generally, you're looking around one educator to 4 children for 0 to 3-year-olds, and then around 1 to 10, 1 to 11 for 3 to 5-year-olds. And then if you just want to go to the next one, Kiara. So we also support with outside school hours care, which is OSH most states. I think it's OSH in New South Wales, which would be called before and after school clubs at home. So you are working with the primary school age children, generally doing, breakfast club and activities in the morning, and then, arts and crafts, sports activities, maybe homework support in the afternoon. So they are those shifts either side of the school day. So your morning shift is generally 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. And then the afternoon shift can start anywhere from 2:30 and will finish as late as 6:30 p.m. They do operate a lot of really fun sort of excursions and incursions. We do have these vacation care programs that run right through the school holidays as well, and they do a lot of really interesting and fun activities as well. They'll go bowling, they'll go to the cinema, they'll go out to parks and things like that as well, although have incursions where they maybe do they try and beat world records, or have someone in to work with the children. So a lot of really fun activities as well that you can do within the OSH. For working in OSH, you will mostly need a CEQA approved qualification. This is really the list of OSH qualifications is endless and is completely different for each state. In Sydney and New South Wales, you won't need a qualification. You can go with your Working with Children's check and support those children. Melbourne's really strict and you have to have your CEQA approved qualification. Generally, most other states as well, you will have to have some sort of a CEQA approved qualification to work there. And generally, it's around 1 educator to 15 children. So it can be a really busy and full on day as well, but really fun type of work.
Yeah, I can say it is really fun. I used to do it when I was studying back home, and some of the things that I did were so fun, like and going and, you know, you feel like a kid again, and it's a really good opportunity and a good way if you're new to the country to see some things that you might not have seen by yourself or might not want to have to pay for normally by yourself.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good way to spend your holidays if you want to save some extra money for your big trips, like your East Coast road trips and all those fun things that you'll probably be planning for when you go over. And now the really fun business talk in terms of visas. So obviously to go to Australia, if you don't hold a New Zealand or an Australian passport, you will need to get a visa. And the most common visa that people get are those that are under the age of 35. They get the 417 working holiday visa, okay? And this is available to those from Europe, the UK and Ireland. And there's a few different stipulations depending on the country that you live in, but pretty much if you are from the UK or you hold a British passport, you're exempt from the 88 days of regional work that you may have heard about. Unfortunately, if you're from Europe or Ireland, the Republic, you are still going to need to do your 88 days. However, it is an experience and it is fun, and you'll come back with some great stories because trust me, I've heard them all and they're good. But this is a initial 12-month entry visa for the Irish and for the European passport holders, and a 3-year entry for British passport holders. And it is multi-entry, meaning you can go over to Southeast Asia or New Zealand or Tassie, that's within Australia, and go across the sea there and visit not just Australia, which is great. And there were a few stipulations there that actually I should have edited this, but it's now you used to only be able, and this is particularly only for early childhood educators, you used to only be able to work 6 months with one employer. That does not include us, ANZ UK. They actually are referring to the schools or centres, but you would have only been able to work up to 6 months in that centre or school, and then we'd have to move you on to a different one. However, they've just changed that for early childhood educators, another great thing for you guys, and you can now work up to a year in the same setting or school or centre, which is fantastic and means you can get a bit more settled and in a routine. And, you know, if you want to commit to the one place, it has a lot more opportunity for that now. This visa is super easy to get. It takes, like, if you applied for it tonight, it normally will come back the next day. However, being early childhood educators, you may be asked to do a medical check, which, don't freak out, it's just a chest x-ray, and you just have to go get it done by the approved medical body that does this, which you can find, they'll give you the links to when you apply for it. And once you get that back, it's pretty much approved just straight away. So for early childhood workers, I do recommend not doing the whole waiting until like the couple of weeks before you go to do it, like some people do. I definitely get it a couple months before you go, if not more than like 6 to 9 months if you know you're definitely going, because once it's approved, you have a year from that date to then enter the country. So the day that you were approved is not it doesn't start feeding into that time there. It's actually from the day that you enter into Australia that it begins. Okay. So that's just a bit about that. I won't get too much into it, because I'm no visa expert in that sense, but you also will get access to the Medicare system, which is Australia's universal healthcare, things like that. And we do provide a lot of resources on this once you have these conversations with us, and we support you on the move. So you will get everything you need to know about all of this as well. Let Joe talk about the other fun business stuff, pay rates.
Perfect. So the pay rates like we've said before, if you are a teacher, then you can work as a diploma or a certificate 3 as well. So in the blue over the right hand side is your diploma and certificate 3 pay rates. So these are all above award, above the Children's Service Award. You're generally looking around $35 an hour as a certificate 3, and generally around $40 an hour as a diploma. So these are all paid in hourly increments, not an hourly. I don't know if that's the right word.
That's right. Sounded right to me.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I mean, if you work, say you work 6 hours and 15 minutes, then you're paid 6 hours and 15 minutes, essentially. Yes. And for the teachers, it is slightly different. So we do find that when a lot of the teachers from overseas come to Australia, you will likely be assessed, provided with a provisional VIT or NESA or whatever the teaching registration that you've applied for will be. So you're probably looking at the first top left pay brackets for that. It's a little bit confusing, this table, but essentially you're looking at the full day and the 4-hour rates. So slightly different between long daycare and kinder. So long daycare, you'll be paid $336 per day and $177 per half day. If it is quite nice in terms of the full day, half day rate as well. If you're to work a 6-hour shift, that will go into a full day pay bracket as well. I would say most of the shifts that are full day are a full day, a 7.5-hour shift. But every now and again we do get a 5-hour or 6-hour shift, and it's nice. I guess you get to finish up early and are still paid for your full day of work as well. It is slightly less in kindergarten just due to the way that the term time works, and they operate on, it's not that interesting, but a 48-week year. But yeah, essentially the first level 1 provisional teacher is what you'll be assessed as when you move over. If you do plan to stay and or you're given full registration as a teacher in whichever state, then you will be moved up to the next pay level as well. And obviously if you're looking to stay in Australia and you get over 1,000 days teaching, then you will be moved up those pay scales as well.
Yeah, fantastic. It is a really nice pay rate. I get a lot of feedback from our educators that move from abroad, and it's a very manageable income. I remember I used to teach in Australia with ANZUK, and it was very nice days. I reflect very fondly on them and the lifestyle that I led with it compared to life over here in the UK. It is rough out here. So yeah, it's not nice in Australia, which is what we're kind of speaking of in terms of the cost of living in Australia. We get this question a lot, is like how does it compare to home? Australia, it's not, it's not like Southeast Asia or South America where it's a bit cheap. It's an expensive country, but your pay is very aligned with the lifestyle of that you will live here in Australia, and is very affordable compared to that of here. And I can speak from experience, and I'm sure Jo can probably speak from her own experience as well. But we've just chucked a few conversions up there for you to have a bit of a look at, so you can see for yourself what you could be looking forward to. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway and the biggest feedback we get is particularly the rent. I think the rent is a lot more affordable in Australia than maybe those living in London or those that I hear living in Dublin at the moment as well. I've heard it's just brutal out there. So it is a lot more accessible and affordable over in Oz. Just got to make sure you get to those open houses and do the work that means you can get the house and all of that stuff. Is on the right page of that, Jo? You being there and over in Oz?
Yeah, I would say so as well. And I found it really nice moving over, I guess, as well, because you pretty much everyone pays weekly. So I guess you don't have to sort of suss out at the start of the month, okay, how am I going to survive for another 30 days on this wage? You can put what you need aside for your rent or for your travels, whatever you want to save, and then you've got money for the rest of the week. And it's a lot easier to sort of break it down that way, which I really enjoyed. I would say, yeah, rent is pretty affordable as well. I'd say your beer, your wine, your alcohol nights out is probably where it gets a little bit more expensive. But like Chiara said, with the sort of income that you're looking to get in Australia, it is a lot more affordable, and you don't have to, count every penny in budget. You can save some to go and travel the rest of Australia as well.
Yeah, no, I was living the high life back home in Melbourne the other month when I was back. It was nice. It was real nice. But yeah, no, it is good. I will say as well, like teaching over in Australia when I was back home, I was definitely able to pay my rent, go out, enjoy my weekends within reason. Obviously, I don't know everyone's spending habits, and also save to travel or to keep as well. So you get kind of the best of all worlds. But I will say that is dependent on your budgeting system as well. So I don't know. I can't trust everybody with their money. But yeah, the finding somewhere to live is the other big question that we always get. Where should I live? How do I do it? We are able to provide a whole heap of advice and guidance as to where you should find your accommodation, best areas to live, best places to go grab a bite or food or coffee, things like that. So we always say at the start of the journey, we recommend people getting a temporary accommodation for the first 3 to 4 weeks. And that's for multiple reasons. And that could look like a hostel, depending on your style, hotel, sublet, Airbnb. If you're going with friends, a lot of people get the Airbnb. But this is because, firstly, you're going to struggle to get locked into a lease before you arrive. A lot of the landlords in Australia are going to want to meet you, going to want to see what you're about, make sure you're a real breathing human being, and first that you can get an income. So that might be one challenge. But also, I think the most important thing is the fact that if you haven't been to Australia before, you want to get there and you want to experience these places and you want to see where you fit in these cities. And I know you might have friends or you might watch videos and think, oh, that's it for me. But then you get there and you're like, oh, this is actually, I like this area heaps more. And if you locked yourself into the one place, you might be kicking yourself, being like, I could have just waited a couple of weeks and actually gotten out there and explored it. And given the feedback we have on that, a lot of people really do stand by that and they really do enjoy that way of doing it. Had a lot of people that have been like, oh, wow, I'm moving here and I never thought, I hadn't even heard of that area before I'd moved. So that's my hot take on it. Everyone will obviously be a bit different in what they want, whether they want a share house, their own place. That obviously has its own prices and things that come with that. If you are moving alone, we always say get into a share house. Best way to meet people, best way to get out. We do, as Jo mentioned before, we do a lot of events, and that can be before you go or when you arrive. And a lot of people end up meeting at these things, living together, carpooling together. So it's a good way to meet friends or your future share house buddies, things like that. And the best way to find these places is getting on Facebook groups and things like that. There's so many good groups out there we can join. People are putting up their rooms for sublet while they go and do their 88 days or go up and do that road trip or things like that. But then if you want your own lease and things like that, there's realestate.com, flatmate finders, things like that as well. So there's plenty of options. You're not going to be left out on the streets. You'll be earning and all those fun things. So don't stress too much about it. But we'll be able to help you with all of that and a little bit of hand-holding, but also the she'll be right mentality as well at the same time from us. Is there any other things, Jo, that your experiences from educators moving over as well?
I think similar to what you've said, we had a really nice group of Canadian educators who had met through the Facebook groups and ended up working living together. We have a lot of Irish educators who work in our SEN schools who all carpool together, pick each other up on the way. But I think definitely, finding somewhere sort of short-term, temporary, when you get here, exploring the city that you're living in, really getting out into different areas, having a look at public transport networks. And, you can always ask your consultant as well, where is a good spot in terms of where the work is in that city to live so that you can get there in public transport, as I assume a lot of people will be using public transport to get around. Yeah, and just seeing, you know, do I want to be by the beach? What's important to me? Where do I want to go?
This is actually what you can talk on
Oh,
the
there
sea
we
then.
go. Leads nicely into it. Yes, so public transport, I mean, Melbourne in particular is great for public transport. You've, you know, trams pretty much everywhere, buses, trains as well. There is ferry public transport within Sydney. Yeah, I guess it sort of varies state to state how accessible and reliable public transport is. So definitely do a little bit of research, and when you're exploring the city, you can get a feel for, you know, what that looks like for you. We are really lucky here in Melbourne, I would say, with how easy it is to get around everywhere. You know, you can walk if you feel as though that's what you want to do. Maybe not in Western Australia, I'd say walk and bike in 45-degree heat, but each to their own. So get the sunscreen on. Yeah, a lot of, you know, if you want to get a bike and sort of cycle around, get your fitness in, and I guess see parts of cities that you might not, whether you're sitting on a train. Yeah, will save you money and keep you nice and healthy as well. A car is pretty self-explanatory. Within the city, it might be a bit tricky depending on what city you are and what that traffic's like. But if you want to do more regional opportunities and explore a bit further out, then it's a really good option for you. If you are from the UK and Ireland, they also drive on the same side of the road, which is really helpful.
Yeah, it is. And Joe mentioned before a lot about carpooling, which is a massive thing, particularly in Melbourne, where educators you'll meet them at all that you end up running into all the expats within the city very quickly anyway, and you become friends and might find out you work close, and that everyone's very kind and will offer, oh, well, if there's a spare seat, you can jump in the car with me in the morning to the train station or to work. I used to work at a school that we work still with very closely, and I'd always call it the clown car that all the Irish would pop out of, because they'd all just cram into this car and get a free lift to work every day. So, or, you know, a lot of feedback about getting the trains together, because you all live similar places. Everyone wants to live kind of, you know, a bit central. So that means you've got to travel out a bit to the suburbs to get to work. So you normally actually share those journeys with other educators working at the same place as you, which is really nice. And a good way, yet again, to make friends, which is about our community and events. Community and events is it's one of the big point of differences for ANZ UK. We really value it, and we see the effect and impact it has for you guys when you are moving abroad. As said, this company and agency is based on the foundation of traveling educators, and you know, with that comes not in your normal space, not your normal friends, not your normal crowd. So we like to create an opportunity for you to create that as easily as possible. So we do pre-departure events, and these are social networking events for you to go and meet like-minded people doing the journey with you, so that you might have a familiar face already when you do get there, which is always nice, someone to grab a coffee with, go down to the beach, or, you know, get the public transport with to work, which is always lovely. We are holding quite a few events across the UK and Ireland between April and June, which are on our events page, and there are really good opportunity to come, and they're for everybody: early childhood, secondary, primary, you partners if you're traveling with them. But yeah, if you want to get to know some other people like-minded doing the travel, maybe you just want to come and see or that other people are doing it and just have those conversations, you might not even be sure yet, come to these events, because they can be the difference between maybe an RN and actually doing. As said as well, we have a Facebook group. This is for people that have had their discussions with us. And once you're in this group, you can ask all sorts of questions like, you know, what's it pack? Who's going where? Do they have any advice? Things like that. And it's just a good way to, you know, get to know some other people doing it and put some posts out there. And obviously we love a good welcome event in Australia. So once you get over there, each city has their own welcome events pretty regularly. particularly Sydney and Melbourne, which are big, obviously, cities that people go to. And these events can be anything from at the local lawn bowls club, or we've done a couple out on the river or the sea, depending on which city you're in, or at a pub for a pub quiz. There's all sorts of things that we do, and we try to make it really fun. And it's for you, it's not a learning thing where you're going to be going through the curriculum, and we do things like that, but these are social events for you to go and make friends and feel a bit more at home in this move.
We do a lot of good competitions as well at the events. I'd say, you know, Airbnb vouchers, travel vouchers, Contiki experiences. So yeah, and it's a really good way to meet people. I know a lot of little, you know, friendship groups that have evolved from these events. They're really good fun. We have them pretty regularly.
Yeah, they're fun for everybody, including us, the ANZUK staff that tag along. So yeah, the why ANZUK, we've already touched on a lot of this, but we have a lot of great resources. That's a really big one as well. I think a lot of educators really appreciate the amount of resources and support that they get on their moves. So we do blog posts that are written by us and by other educators that have done it. It can be on anything from experiences to curriculum to classroom management to structuring classes, where there's all sorts of things. You could write in any word and I'm sure a blog will come up for it pretty much. We also have LMS, which is an online learning portal for educators. It's like PD. So there's access to that, and you can have that access before you arrive as well, which can help prepare you for before you arrive. Facebook groups, the information packs, I call them the holy Bibles of relocating. They're so good. They have everything in it, from filing tax to what bank card to get to phone numbers to, you know, where to live, the school terms, everything. So they're really great, and you get them once you have conversations with us, and, you know, 10 out of 10 would recommend. All the events you get, the 360 support, I think, is without doubt probably the best thing about it. You have me and my team here in the UK that are in the same time zone as you. You have your initial calls with us. We get to know you, what you're looking to get out of it, your qualifications, what you're eligible for, find out where might be best for you, what experience might be best for you. And then once you've locked in some plans, got some flights, visas, things like that, we then pass you over to the fantastic team over in Australia, like Joe, or if it's in other states, it'll be somebody else. And they are there, and they'll make that connection with you as well before you arrive. You'll have a call with them. They'll talk you through some stuff more on the ground, like getting set up with the app, maybe what stuff you'll need to bring when you get there, and also set up a time for you to come into the office and meet someone that you've already spoken to and have a friendly face and chat there as well. And then we send you out. And if you ever decide to go home, we also support with going home as well. So it is 10 out of 10, as said, would recommend. And then community and the local and global opportunities are just phenomenal. And you never know. ANZUK is great. As I said, I used to teach in Australia, and then I went traveling for 8 months. And because of my connections I had with the ANZUK team, I just reached out to one of my old consultants, said, I'm going to London, help me. What do I need to do? And they sent me in the direction of the global team that got me over to the UK and supported me the whole way. So at any point, you know, you can always reach out to us, and there's always someone there that's willing to help, and we'll get you to where you need to go. So yeah, that's us. Any questions? I can't see if there's like the Q&A. Joe will have to see that for me. Is there a section for people to ask questions there?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I'll jump on them. So is this opportunity open to any citizen as long as they studied in the UK? I'm studying postgraduate certificate in education primary with QTS, and would I be a suitable candidate for this? In regards to coming over to teach within early childhood, I would say it does need to be quite an early childhood specific qualification that you would have. So I'm not too sure about this specific postgraduate certificate, but I think that would be
with the PGCEs, they're normally pretty good. If it's early childhood, you could be eligible for that. You could actually be dual qualified, which is primary and secondary. But these are conversations that you can have with me and my team, and we actually go through your qualifications specifically, we can help you and guide you as to what you would be eligible for. So I can't see who asked that question, but after the call, after tonight, you guys will all actually get an email with links to book a call with me, myself, or my other team members that will you can organise a call. They're free calls. The whole process with us is free. You never pay a cent to us. And you can have that initial call to either start your plan or get some questions asked and things like that. So I would recommend it. Yeah, any other questions particularly?
So I've answered for Rhea, which says I'm working in the UK mainstream school as a learning support service. I'll be qualified early years teacher in coming July. Do I need to do an ASEQA assessment? I have my MED degree in early years. Sorry, early in the morning here. In early years education from the UK with 2.5 work experience in the field. So what you would do is have a look at the ASEQA list of approved qualifications. If your qualification is not on the approved list, then you will apply for your ASEQA assessment. It will take around 10 weeks to come through, so if you're planning on coming soon, Kiara can help you with that ASAP so we can get you out to work.
Yeah, and other just little thing that I've remembered as well is for anyone that's on this call that might be dual qualified, which means that you have a qualification in both primary and early childhood. So that could be someone that has maybe a bachelor's degree in early childhood and did a master's in education. You would be eligible for dual qualification, which if that's the case, if you apply for ASEQA and your teaching registration for primary, we'll actually reimburse you the cost of your ASEQA assessment, given that you've worked a set amount of days within early childhood at some point. So there's a few little incentives and fun things to get you out here as well. And we'll go through that all with you as well once you have a call with us, and we can, because everyone's different, everyone has their own experiences and qualifications and ideas and plans, and that's why we do these one-on-one calls to help you make sure that you're doing the right, journey for you and your circumstances. Cool.
Definitely. Amber's asked if having our qualification assessed by ASEQA will speed up the process of VIT. 100% yes, it will. You won't be able to apply for your early childhood VIT until you have ASEQA. So I would, jump in a call with Kiara, get started on your ASEQA. So that you don't need to think about that when you're in Australia. You can apply for your teaching registration, whether you're in Victoria or wherever you are located. Will definitely speed up the process.
Yeah, I will say as well, if there is anyone on this call that is, definitely going this year or on the very strong side of thinking that they're going this year, I'd book in a call just like ASAP, because it gets you set up well, because there's all these like little things that every now and then get you and sneak up on you. And if you leave it too late, you could be stuck heading with your flight over and not able to work for the first couple of weeks and months. So there's never too early a time to have a chat, and we're always happy to answer questions, whether that be via email as well. You already have access to my email address. I've sent you all an email for tonight's call. Just getting onto it as soon as possible is always a good idea. No such thing as a silly question, I like to say. Maybe one more question and then we'll wrap it up and let Jo wake up properly and you guys get on with your nights.
So we've got a couple of questions. Can you apply for early years jobs on websites like Indeed with UK qualifications, or would they only look for Australia qualifications? So this is what the ASEQA assessment is for. You can come over with your UK qualifications, but you will need to have them assessed. You don't need to study in Australia or anything like that, just an assessment to look at the equivalent and what that looks like. But can you work in a government?
I was also just going to, on that point as well, about the whole applying for jobs on Indeed. Obviously, working with ANZ UK, you're not signing any contract that means you can't apply for other jobs. You're always open to apply for jobs directly. without our support. However, just like for context, I know sometimes people get a bit confused or they just don't know, but our main role, ANZUK's role, is finding you employment. So we take away the whole aspect of you having to sit online hunting and for jobs and, endlessly updating your CV to, align with a certain workplaces, things like ethoses and things like that. We take that out. We do the vetting. We help you with the registration. We make sure that you're quality, prepared educators, and then schools come to us and they ask for you guys, and we have conversations. So once you get a consultant in Australia, they'll know about where you're living, how far you're willing to travel for work, what settings are your preferences, age groups, whether you like certain settings, whether that's special needs, mainstream, things like that. And then we send you out to schools based on those preferences. And as Joe's mentioned at the start of this call, at the start of this presentation, is it's all types of work we support with. So whether that's casual, the day-to-day, or those long-term contracts that are actually also advertised online. So a lot of jobs that are advertised online, or we'll also know about them because we might have relationships with those places ourselves already. So if you are looking to go and you want to take the stress out of the job hunting, that's the stress, one of the big stresses we take away, just so that you guys can have a bit of understanding around that as well. But as said, you're always free to do whatever you need to do as well.
Yeah.
I'm just going
yeah, I would say specific questions around your qualifications and what that looks like. Book in a call with Clara. She can, give you all of the information specific to what you need to do and how that looks for you. Yeah, we're really looking forward to having you over in the Australian team, hopefully. Yeah, so myself and Kiara and other consultants will help you with your move. Stay in contact with us. We've got the social medias, the Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can keep up to date with all the events that we have going on, and for international and departing educators. Rowan, Annika and Kiara, all their contact details are there as well.
You will also, after this call, we're going to send you, I'm personally going to send everyone a recording of this webinar in case there's any things that you want to go over again, listen to, read through, so you'll have that chance, as well as you'll get all the links to bookings links. So that means that you will be able to give to book in, see our calendars, book in a time that works for you and start that whole process, and or have email addresses to start at least a discussion as well. So you'll hear from us very soon, probably tomorrow at some point, once I've gotten through and edited the start of the video of me and Joanne trying to figure out microphones. It will spare you those details, and you'll get a nice recording to look back over and some details to contact us again. But just want to say thank you for those that did come on and took time out of your night to join us. I hope that you guys have a bit more of an understanding of the work that you can do within early childhood in Australia, and answered at least a couple of questions that you had on your mind, and hopefully inspired a lot of you to actually go and make the move. So hopefully, as Joe said, we get to see you over in Australia and within the Australian team. And with that, I'll love you and leave you and let you guys enjoy your evenings.